How's it going, everyone? This is E-Man from TCG Wise123, and today I am bringing you guys another TCO match from the Drummer Jam tournament. This is match number 4, where I am facing against Zerovash. My third match was against my good friend Jose, but what ended up happening was that his internet went down, and so he opted to just give me the win because like his aunt forgot to pay the internet bill, so there was no other way for us to continue our match, which was due on that day. So I'm bringing you guys the fourth match. Again, I'm facing against Zerovash. He's using Blurple Tempo deck, and I'm using my aggro Water Dark Fire version as always, because you can't change the decks. And he turns 3 Freakish Test Subject, which is a really good addition to Blurple because it's unblockable and it has Slayer too, which adds like the perfect aggression against the decks, against any deck. And so it's like this deck gave me like a lot of problems, and this is probably by far like my best match yet in this tournament. At this point, I was 1-2, 1 win and 2 losses, and so uh, I played the turn 4 Helo Flame to Suicide with the Freakish Test Subject because if I let it live any longer, it was gonna like do some havoc against me, and so I put down the Terror Pit on turn 5, and what I did was I tapped 2 mana to play the Dark Return to get back the Helo Flame, and he doesn't know that I have the second Helo Flame, so it's just like somewhat of a surprise factor for him, so that's why I opted to do that. And in this turn, I didn't play the turn 4 Helo Flame because since he was being very aggressive against me, I opted to play the control route. Excuse me. And so that's why I didn't go too aggressive. So, and also I wanted to save the Heat of Flames just to like suicide with the Slayers, which I think it ended up uh being a good decision in the long run. And so he taps forward to Rusalka my refi, which gets like very annoying because Blurple has really good tempo with the bounds, slayers, and all that stuff. And he decides to attack with this Patchwork Surgeon, but then I decided to block with the Grudge Waver, and then he discarded Logo Scans. And it was my turn to draw. I ended up drawing the Herald of Infernus, and right now I start to think about whether dropping the Herald onto the field was good or not, despite not having any dragons in my hand, just to apply like some sort of pressure into him of uh, not attacking, but instead I opted to put down the Herald into mana and Crystal Memory for the Awaken because it'll like completely shut down his deck. And so on this one, I decided to bounce the Featherfin, so that way when he does go in with his 2 creatures, I can at least suicide with the Rusalka, and instead of just putting down the refi. I would have liked to have like 10 mana just so that I can drop the refi, but sadly I didn't have 10 mana at this point. And right here he starts to think, and then he plays the Patchwork to get back the Freakish Test Subject, and I'm just like, ugh. And at this point, I was really hoping for a Shield Blast, but the first one being Rusalka just put my hopes down, and he's gonna end up attacking with Rusalka. And it ends up not being a Shield Blast, which pretty much uh, falls into his favor because it can't really do anything else. And well, at this point I was like, huh. the most that I can do is drop two blockers and a Rusalka, and just hope that he doesn't have removal for doesn't have like enough removal to take out two of my blockers, but uh, but then he draws for turn, and then he ends up top decking the what is it, Scarvos the Assassin? No, I don't think he top decked it. No, he already had it in his hand. Yeah, it was just like really good on his part. And Scarvos is one of the battle mages, uh, level 5, 3000 power. When it comes into the field, you choose one of your creatures that has Slayer, and then choose one of your creatures it can't be blocked this turn. So since I had no shields left, he was able to easily go for game in that point. So now we start off to our game 2. We put down our shields and draw our 5 cards. And this time I decided to go first again because I'm a sore loser. And so, no, I'm joking, but I decided to drop down the Bale Vortex. I think it would have been better to drop the Chain Lash, but I think at this turn I did drop down the Chain Lash because I could have dropped the Grudge Waiver as well, but I was thinking, like what if I draw like a Terror Pit or something? Because I really do need the defense against this tempo deck. So I decided to drop down the Chain Lash. And then I pass my turn, he drops down the Gloom Hollow, then passes turn. Then I ended up drawing the Bolt Tail Dragon, and I dropped it into mana and passed turn because I had no turn 3 play. Then he plays this Freakish Test Subject, and I'm like, well, great. Now he's gonna start like wrecking my shields. So I drew the logo scan. I'm like, well, the best thing I can do is just drop the Grudge Waiver and then uh, get a +1. And so I did that, and he dropped down his Feather Fin, broke a shield. Uh, Mesmerize ended up being the broken shield, and then I opted to play it. Now he has Ripper Reaper, Rusalka, and Patchwork. And Patchwork is really annoying to deal with because he could just like get back creatures, so I had to deal with it. And I ended up passing the turn to him with 5 mana, and right now he's gonna go up to 5 mana with the Freakish and Featherfin on board for him. So right now it's a pretty good start for him because he ends up drawing with Featherfin. Then he drops Seneschal, so now he gets to have all the draw power when attacking. Then I finally get a Shield Blast from Shields, and it ends up being a Soul Vortex. Sadly, I didn't have anything to recover back from Soul Vortex, but I did ended up banishing the Featherfin, which is really good. So I drew to Dreadclaw and put down the Overcharge and dropped the Grudge Waiver Rusalka, bouncing back the Feathered Fin, I believe, or the Seneschal. No, I bounced back the Seneschal, yeah. And then he attacks with Freakish Test Subject, and then he hits another Shield Blast, and starting to have a little bit of hope for this match, which I start to get a little bit happy at this point because now next turn I can drop the General Sky Crusher, and then at this point I can like somewhat take control of the field. And then I draw the Awakened, and I'm like, hallelujah. Now at this point I'm slow rolling to the 9 at the 9 mana mark, and at this point I had like no dragons in my discard pile, and so just in case if he had removal in his hand, I decided to keep the Dreadclaw instead. So I dropped the Chain Lash, played the uh, what's it called, Grip of Despair, just to stall. And at this point, I finally hit the 9 mana mark and played the Awaken. And so now I pretty much locked him down, and then he even said that I pretty much got this. Because I don't think he was playing. I don't think he had. I don't think he was playing Terrapits in his deck, which was like somewhat odd. it was a 40 card deck, and it was like really kicking my ass. And so at this turn, I'm like, huh. Well, just so that he doesn't do some sort of shenanigans, I'll just try to go for game this turn, and then he ended up not having Shield Blast this turn. And so that was game two. Now we're at the final match for game three. This is it. Us- Usually I always say if it goes to game three, then it's a really good match at this point. And this opening hand is pretty interesting because I ended up drawing two mesmerizes. And so he went first, dropped down the Scarvos, passed to me, drawing the Veil, dropped down another Veil. Then I ended up drawing all three of my mesmerizes. I'm like, well then, this should be interesting. But his turn three play ends up being Seneschal, and I'm just like, ugh. I drew the Gloom Hollow. I ain't gonna do great against Seneschal, so I ended up dropping the Refi. And he plays the Rusalka, bounces my Refi, attacks with Seneschal, does all the shenanigans. But then I got another Shield Blast, which I was so happy about. Because I was having like the unluckiest luck with my Shield Blast lately. And so I was very happy that I got the grip just to like somewhat stabilize. And then ends up uh, biting me back because he ends up playing his own grip. Breaks the shield with Rusalka, ends up being a grudge waiver. So I drew for turn, got the Dread Claw, put it down, play both Refi and the grudge waiver, and I pass it to him. Right now we're at the 6 mana mark, and he drops the Featherfin, passes turn, and I decide to drop the Gloom Hollow and play the Veil instead of the logo scans just to sort of stall and for him to stop drawing from Featherfin and the Seneschals because those are like really annoying to deal with. And right here is the ultimatum of either dropping the logos or dropping the billion degree. And I ended up dropping the logo scan just in case like if he drops like another creature that could be detrimental against me, I could just like suicide with Billion Degree. But he ends up playing logo scans and Seneschal, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Uh, I'll I'll play the Billion Degree now, and I chose to attack Seneschal because if he ends up playing Patchwork Surgeon, he can like play Patchwork Surgeon, and then next turn he can play Rusalka, which could be really annoying. Because I don't think he had enough. Wait, one, two, three, four, five. Yeah, he didn't have enough mana to uh, play both cards that turn. And I ended up drawing the Dreadclaw. And I think at this point I saved it just in case, like, because I wasn't seeing Terrapits at all played from him. And, like, I was still, like, worried about it. And at this point, I start going in with both Billion Degree and the General Sky Crusher. And Uh, the only Shield Blast being was Dark Return. I think he got back a Featherfin Stalker. And he plays the Scar. No, I think he got the Scarvos back. So, gives the Rusalka Slayer, suiciding with Billion Degree. And he attempts to attack the General Sky Crusher. And I ended up blocking with the Refi. And then that's when I ended up uh, playing the Dreadclaw to get back to Billion Degrees, so I think it was good on my part to save the Dreadclaw just in case if that ever happened. So at this point, uh, he drops the Grip of Despair, grips my Dreadclaw, and I'm just like, ugh. Now I have to choose between Billion and Dreadclaw, and in the end I ended up choosing Dreadclaw, just because I could uh, banish both of the blockers this turn. And one of the shield blasts ends up being the grudge waiver, and right here I play the grudge waiver and the bone blaze to get rid of the gloom hollow because it could attack, and so the blockers, the refis didn't bother me, but I had to deal with the gloom hollow, and his Scarvos is like in extended life right now. And I'm just like, and then he grips again. I'm just like, God damn. And I ended up discarding Billion Degree because I figured in the long run the uh, banish 3000 power or less when coming into play would be a lot more beneficial than playing the 8 drop fast attack. So I played that and he ends up patchworking and then he gets back a Rusalka and I'm just like fuck. So I dropped the Sky Crusher again and I asked for him if I can see his discard pile because I had to think because I was either choosing to banish either Rusalka, Patchwork, or Scarvos. And I can't rely on Shield Blast, so I had to focus on the attacking creatures. And at this point, after looking at through his discard pile, I ended up banishing the Patchwork. And then I ended up dropping the Gloom Hollow, and at that point, I don't think he could have done anything else since I had two attackers. So that's the game for me. I finally got it. At this point, my record was 2-2, and I ended up having a Terrapin in my shields, which was awesome. So that's it for match number 4 of this TCO match. I hope you guys enjoyed, and be on the lookout for the other matches. So thanks for watching.